Okay. So welcome to the first of our series of international webcasts, where we're talking to colleagues of ours from across the world about what their experiences have been over the last few months, working through COVID, but also finding some of the opportunities that will be there for everybody on the other side of this. So it's a real pleasure to introduce Team Australia. So this is a combined Brit-Australian effort, this conversation. Jonny, what time is it over in Australia right now?
Cocktail o'clock.
Cocktail o'clock, excellent. It's coffee o'clock over in the UK. So I think this is probably going to be our biggest time difference. So thank you everybody for sacrificing your cocktails on this lovely Tuesday. I'll just start by introducing my colleagues from Australia, and then we'll come, and then there are a few Brits on the line as well. So Jonny, maybe start with you. Just how do you fit into Compass Team Australia?
Hi, my name's Jonny Neech, and I head up brand concept development here in Australia across most of the sectors. Moved across from Blighty in 2016, so I consider myself nearly Australian now.
Excellent, fantastic. And I'll go around the group. Adam, hi, nice to meet you. Oh, Adam, you're muted.
Of course. Hi, I'm Adam Harding. I'm the National Operations Manager for our Eurest business here in Australia. So, my role, I oversee the operational delivery, implementing our growth strategies, innovation, and managing the commercial outcomes of the Eurest business here in Australia.
Fantastic. And Simon, hello, morning. Yeah. I was going to say morning, evening.
Evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name's Simon Fraguelli, General Manager of Operations across our B&I sector, and I have the ultimate responsibility for driving our operational solutions, which I think we can all agree have been somewhat challenging during this COVID period. So nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too. And hi, Vanessa, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening. I'm the National Operations Manager for RA, and I have a bit of a dual role at the moment, which is looking after all of our venues nationally, and also I have a corporate portfolio that runs nationally as well. So I get to play in both sectors, which is a lot of fun, and has been really interesting to see the different reactions between the two during this phase of COVID.
Totally. Hello. Hi, Elaine.
In New South Wales and Victoria, and the businesses I look after are from the banking sector and the technology sector. So I see my role as twofold. I have a strategic outlook to ensure we're innovating in operational excellence, in customer service and product, but I'm also making sure I'm a key support for my site managers, so it enables them to do their job on site.
Brilliant, fantastic. Thank you so much. So maybe we'll just start with oh gosh, no, we won't. We'll go on to a few introductions from the British side of the team, and then we'll just open up a couple of questions. So we've got from Team Britain, we've got Sonia. Morning, Sonia.
Morning, evening. Hi, everyone. I head up all things coffee and community for RA. So I like to say that I'm activating positive change via every flat white that we're able to deliver and sell. But essentially, it's about doing positive things for our charity partners and our clients and all the people that we partner with. So, yeah, we've actually been extremely busy during this period, as you can imagine. So, yeah, really looking forward to having this conversation with you today.
Cool. And David, hello.
Morning, good evening, everyone. Sorry for disturbing your cocktails on this lovely evening or lovely morning. David Siemens, Culinary Director for RA Group here in the UK. So I head up everything food and drink for RA Group in the UK.
Fantastic. And Gavin.
Hello, good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm the Marketing Director at RA Group, covering restaurant associates, RA venues, and report guest services. And it's great to see you all today.
Fantastic. And I'm the Managing Director for RA Group over here in the UK, and I'm going to get our conversation started. So maybe, Jonny, if I just start with a question to you around just a quick overview of what's actually been happening in Australia over the last 6 months. Have you been locking down? We've had summer, you've had winter. How's it been? What's the 30-second history of COVID Australia?
Well, 30-second history of COVID in Australia started when I got back from the UK. I had a visit at end of February, landed on the 29th, and Australia went straight into lockdown literally a week later, and I would have been stuck in the UK. So thank God I did that. But of course, you're right. So seasonality, completely different. We've just gone through winter. You've just gone through summer. So there'll be some really interesting conversations around that seasonality, I'm sure. We've noticed a very different close down, plateau and opening back up here in Australia. Geography plays a large part of that. Australia is massive. 7 states with 7 different phases of COVID across those 7 states, with 1 state right now still in lockdown with curfew. Only this week letting people to come out of their houses more than an hour a day until 9 p.m. at night. And that's one of the biggest economies of the country, Victoria. So you've got WA that's been largely unaffected, and large mining businesses that have just ploughed through this and continued to work. And then you've got in the middle ground there, you've got Queensland and New South Wales. High populations have had a close down, a reopening, clients starting to come back. But look, this is really tricky for us. It's like managing lots of different levers, all opening doors, opening and closing at different paces with different numbers of people coming through. So hugely complex, but we're confident people are coming back. Australia are now coming out, with fingers crossed, of our second wave. So we are ahead of the rest of the world in those learnings. So we're happy to share some of that with you.
Great, thanks, Jonny. Elaine, I might move over to you, because you look after those banking and tech clients, and so we have a lot of that industry over in the UK as well. So, what's it been like for a worker in the banking industry where you are? What experience have they had? Have they been working at home? How long for? And have they seen you and the work that we do at any point over the last few months?
Okay, so for the most part, my portfolio has still required our services. So we've been really fortunate, albeit lower levels and split teams. But because we do more than just food service here, we're doing reception as well as mailroom in one of the cases, and pantry services. So we've been fortunate to continue doing business for them. But these businesses now look to be, I guess, having their employees or their teams working permanently from home, say 1 to 3 days a week. So I guess what that does is it lowers our site population. It in turn affects our catering business, but we have also been given the opportunity to support our clients differently. So we've been expanding on current food services and out of scope tasks, and I guess other lines of revenue where we've never had, I guess, scope or permission to actually, look at that with their associates. So there's been light at the end of the tunnel for us here.
And Vanessa, if you sort of compare how the venue side of what you support compares to that corporate side, have there been differences there? I mean, over here, venues were completely closed for a moment of time, but actually they seem to have come back a bit faster as people have had a little bit of social interaction in a controlled way, but maybe have been slower to come back to the workplace. I don't know how that compares to what you've seen.
Yes, it's slightly different here in Australia. Most of the venues that we look after, in fact, all of them are heavily government funded. And as a result, their approach has been very conservative. They were the first to close, and it's looking like, particularly, I'm based in Victoria, lucky me, they will be the last to open. So a lot of the reopening phases, museums and galleries are literally at the end of November, and everything else is looking towards end of October. So it's been really interesting in Victoria, whereas in Canberra the restrictions are slightly lifted. So we had our first wedding there a few weeks ago for the maximum number, which was 100, and we were the first to host a wedding in Canberra since lockdown. So it was with a heart in our mouth, but we got through it. So it's been interesting to see that approach, but incredibly conservative comparatively to elsewhere.
Yeah. And Simon, if I maybe sort of ask you about how have our sort of customers reacted to what's going on? Because it sounds like we've more had a period where we've shut completely and then we're opening back up again. But maybe you've had certainly pockets of your work or pockets of the country where you've kept operating. What differences in behaviour have you seen from your consumers, and how have you responded to that? What have your teams done in response to help them stay supported?
Yeah, I think if we look at the the RA and the Eurest business lens, we've seen, as Jonny said, dispersed over a very wide geography. So I'm located in Queensland, and COVID, whilst it's impactful, we are seeing a return to the office. I'm on this call from our office. We've got close to 50% population in our own Compass Group office as we speak. So very in the states and territories having a very different return to the office lens. Interestingly enough, we saw at the commencement of COVID, there was a dramatic close down of business. Everyone started working from home, and I think there was that genuine sense of people getting quite comfortable and quite used to it. Certainly what we're now seeing as we're transitioning longer through COVID is there's a real appetite from our consumers to return to the office. And we're looking at lots of innovative concepts that we can attract and ideally retain them in the offices that they work as well. So we're doing a lot of food delivery concepts to the desks. We've got mobile barista bikes that roam around the floors of various offices, providing barista coffee and snacks. So the workforce is able to come back to work, but not go out into the the conventional high street cafe or shop, and they feel somewhat secure working in their work environment as well. Obviously works for our clients as well, because they're keen to get the numbers coming back. A key element for us is the use of public transport by the consumers. There's a fear factor in people actually using public transport to come to work. So we've got lots of innovative concepts with our clients. We've had some delivery at home pantry services where we're delivering care packages to people's homes, again to really drive the connectivity between the consumer, the client, and Compass Group as a whole.
That's really interesting, because we've looked at we're sort of looked also at home delivery and elements of that. I guess in my brain, like, Australia is such a big place that you'd have thought where you are that might be even more of a challenge than it is for us here. But it sounds like you're making that work. So is it more to do with urban areas, or are you finding ways of kind of posting parcels out to people? How does that work?
It's interesting that if you look at the sort of delivery of meals to the home, sort of the Uber Eats or the Deliveroo, that's not a concept. That's a concept we dipped our toes into the water, but very early on we realised that it was an oversaturated market and it wasn't a market we really wanted to play in. So for us, it was working very closely with our clients and with their bespoke sort of consumer group to see how we could integrate or foster a greater connectivity between our clients and the consumers. So we've been delivering care packages to their home address, either using a courier service or delivering it ourselves. COVID came over Easter. We delivered, something as basic as hot cross buns to a couple of hundred of our customers to their personal addresses. Again, it was just really driving that connectivity with the clients. But that home delivery meal service, we've certainly removed ourselves from that, as it is already oversaturated.
Yeah, makes sense. I suppose I'm just thinking about kind of compare and contrast. David and Sonia, kind of as you listen to that, how does that compare to what you feel sort of we've been through sort of supporting our consumers over here?
I think there's a lot of synergies, and there's also different speed of cycle we've gone through and approach. But again, we've certainly seen the connectivity piece is really important with the consumer, and engaging with them is integral to success and keeping in contact. So again, we've done numerous things similar, whether it be virtual hospitality meals, breakfast hampers, or lunch boxes, etc., delivered in. But we're actually just at the starting point of that. So just on the beginning of that journey. But certainly, I think it will grow as businesses start to come back into their buildings or stay at home for longer periods.
Yeah.
For me, it's really interesting to hear that the fears and the worries of people, coming into work and public transport, we're facing those exact same obstacles at the moment. So actually, I love the idea of barista bikes on the floors serving coffee, because if there's anything that people have said that they really miss, it is that contact and that barista service. So yeah, it's really encouraging to hear that there are some solutions once people do finally get into the office, that we can kind of, become more flexible and more mobile to kind of address those. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Here's the
Simon,
thing,
back to you.
Simon hit the nail on the head with the dipping our toes bit. So the lens to look through here is macro and micro and dipping our toes. We're trying lots of new things. And do you know what? Our consumers are forgiving. They don't mind if it's too rough and ready. They love the fact that we're being fast and innovative and effective. And sometimes this stuff isn't working, like the home delivery thing. We did all of the work, but we didn't get the traction. But do you know what? We've now got the learning and we've got it all set up. And when the volume does come back or the time comes to run that service, we are perfectly positioned to go and do it properly. So that's the other thing. And secondly, the point around barista breaks is, when a limited workforce comes back to the office, they're usually in a limited part of the building. And our fixed old pre-COVID cafe on floor 7 doesn't necessarily service them well enough. So taking the offer to them is something that we've got to really consider. How can we do that in many ways? Barista bikes, a very two-dimensional, obvious version of that, but how can we do that in new ways?
Yeah, Simon, you good.
Yeah, I think Jonny really covered my point. I was really sort of trying to give David some confidence while you maybe just, commencing that journey. Whilst there's a requirement for us to have that sort of a holistic compass group lens, you've got to have a bespoke solution that you can tailor it to the client's need. And to Jonny's point, barista bike working with some of our clients and not with others. So you've really got to be multidimensional in your thought process and fail fast. What we've really learned, and to Jonny's point, is our consumers are forgiving, but they're wanting innovation, and they're not expecting that we're going to provide a service that we used to provide pre-COVID. I think everyone understands that we're in a very different sort of world moving forward, and the ability to fail fast and trial concepts is being very well received.
Yeah.
How ironic that we had 6 coffee bikes that we tried a year ago that didn't work.
Yeah.
But they're now working for us. So there we go.
Yeah, that rings a bell for sure. And so bring you into the conversation kind of with sort of your Eurest hat on. I mean, it's interesting what Simon was saying about, public transport and the way people feel about coming into work. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations over here in the UK with my opposite number in Eurest, Morag, around how offices will become more safe spaces perhaps for people. Somewhere that they do feel comfortable spending time and working, and maybe in the longer term, more like collaboration spaces. And how will that change sort of the nature of what we do? So just interested from a Eurest perspective, how are you thinking about the way that your clients and consumers are starting to think about the office? What kind of office environment are you now trying to create for those customers?
Look, for us in Eurest, having a very multifaceted business over here, our corporate market is still very much in most shutdown. Our manufacturing side has certainly continued right through COVID. So, the corporate side is really giving us an understanding. We've had significant connection with our clients over the last 5 months, regular, catch-ups and calls with them to understand where their return to the office is and how we support that. You're right, we are hearing around some of those collaboration spaces and how they use, the normal cafe space as a collaborating area, how they use some of their other function space or facilities and areas for that type of thing. And then what are those offers that we're looking to deliver into there? So, whether they're, function catering that is, single serve package type products versus the normal, platted type, everyone eats all. So we're already seeing that come through with our clients, those that are open and looking for some of those, innovations. Part of that we're also considering, given what we see in Eurest is typically more of a user pay, operation versus a client paid operation, is our need to shift some of the thinking around how we approach the offer and the range. So, considering some things such as micro markets, having those available for people to consume, which is at a lower cost base than, having a full manned cafe, for example. and that allows people to use those spaces collaborating more internally, but still have an offer that they can, provide or access products, using that through our self-pay systems. The beauty for us is having our pantry services that allowed us to have some infrastructure behind that allows us to deliver and support those programs outside of things like the care packs that Simon's mentioned. But definitely for our corporate market, there is a lot of, or Eurest corporate, a lot of those conversations about how we use those traditional spaces to have more of a collaboration approach as we see that return. But for us at the moment, it's working to the future because, as I say, most of Eurest corporate is still fairly much in a shutdown state or very minimal numbers on site at this stage. So.
Yeah, Simon?
Yeah, I know she was smiling as when we speak. We've actually never engaged with our clients more than we have in the last number of months. And the lesson for me is we have had to take the front foot and really reset that conversation quite often and really take the client on our journey, because the clients are really now looking to us to see what concepts, what solution, what global best practice, this call being one of those, what global best practice can we bring to them and to their business as well. And I think to Adam's point is to really consider alternative solutions. So there may be a hybrid model that may be in play for the next 12 to 18 months whilst our clients are returning to whatever normal in the new world looks like. And I think the ability to flex those alternative solutions depending on the uptake of numbers on site is going to be critical moving forward.
Yeah. So I might then sort of share the love across the pond and just ask David and Sonia about some of those. I guess it's probably a bit early to call it best practice, but I'd be interested in, as you reflect on the work that you've done over here in the last 6 months or so, what elements of that, when you look back, kind of really surprise you? Maybe how fast we've moved, or what we've managed to get out there and have land that maybe 6 months ago we wouldn't even have imagined. What comes to mind most? Be really interested. I've not really asked you that question. Who wants to go first? Sonia, David?
First, I was going to wait, David, but I'll go first. I'm surprised by a few things. I'm surprised how to Simon's point, we've been able to keep communication flowing with clients as much as we have. Even though we've all been remote, we've still managed to keep this connection. And I think our communication has improved tenfold, which is shocking because we're no longer in the same room anymore. But I think internally as well, we've been able to really solidify who we are and create an identity, not create an identity, but really kind of come together and really actually be that community that we felt we were. I think we've really been able to outwardly show this is who we are and these are our principles and this is the direction we want to go in. And I think,
Sonia, how much of that is driven by kind of the webcasts that we've been doing and the social and the digital side of things?
I mean, during the lockdown period, we've done, tons of community activities where we've been fundraising, raising awareness for lots of different charities. And I think we had over 400 views for the talent show that we did virtually, which was incredible, raised £1,000 for charity in one night. So we've been able to achieve so many great things, which, to be honest with you, I think it was the everybody pulling together that really helped us achieve it, which has been great. It's also, I think, established kind of a sense of pride that actually in RA we did this, and we all feel quite proud of that, and we all wear that badge of pride that we contributed to all of these different community causes across the period, which was amazing. But I also feel that we've been able to react much quicker to things. I think, to your point, Alice, there's a lot of things which I'm sure David will touch on that we've wanted to do, and now we've kind of had that kickstart, and we've been able to get these projects rolling. Which leads on to you, David, because I think I know what you're gonna refer to.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Sonia. I'd like to echo everything that Jonny and Simon said. I mean, it's really interesting how people, inherently don't like change and they fight it as much as they can. If we dial back 9 months ago, we were struggling to get clients or encourage clients to go cashless, right? Now it's a thing. It's it's simple challenge removed. And all those similar things like that, and it's the connection and openness to people changing, which for me is fantastic, and how they embrace it now, whereas before they'd fight it. You know, technology, you know, app ordering, engagement, connection, ordering, it's all there now, which was such a difficult thing to sell to clients in the past, which for me is phenomenal. Also, the openness and broad-mindedness of clients and consumers, again, you know, used to be very, you know, insular in their thought process sometimes and stuck in their ways. Now, again, through these challenges, it's opened up that diversity and enabled people to understand and look at things from a different lens. And you know, that for me, just embraces and supports the quality ethics and communication between the consumer and the staff level, which is going to make everything better for everyone.
Cool. Gavin?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we've super sped all of our long-term plans over the past 4 or 5 months, and I'm sure Jonny will agree with this. So things which were in the pipeline are now actually reality. So, you know, this being September, we're actually launching lots of those key initiatives. So whether it's going to be our new wellness program, working with River Cottage, with Ways to Be Well, articulating a really complex proposition and launching that in the next few weeks. Whereas it probably would have been a 2021 project. Even things like our E10 sustainable cafe concept, which, you know, we've been frantically putting together over a lockdown period to be able to launch in the next few weeks in several sites across the UK. So I think if anything, lockdown has been able to allow us to focus on the things which are really important to our business, to then create a plan of implementation and have those conversations with clients, which, you know, we may not have had the cut through as succinctly before. Whereas now, as Sonia said, you know, our levels of communication, the way we've been able to interact with our colleagues and the wider community has been far more effectively than perhaps we ever imagined, to the point that we're now able to supercharge everything and get things launched in a relatively short period of time. So, you know, if anything else, there's a really positive exercise that we're a lot more directional, a lot more focused on where we're going as a business and articulating that perhaps a bit more coherently, because it's given us a little bit of time to think about, you know, what really matters to us as an organisation.
I'd be really interested in kind of Team Australia's thoughts on the same question. Kind of what, as you look back over the last 6 months, what are you sort of blown away by seeing your teams have achieved, or, you know, where have you leapt ahead in ways that you just wouldn't have imagined 6 months previously?
I think, you know, I think to Gavin's point is that belief that you can succeed, and I'm not for a minute suggesting we never had the belief, but I think the momentum that we've had to deliver it and the forward lens that is with us now, it's not with us in the future. It's a success factor for us, and for me, it's really been able to draw on the skill set. And you know, we're spread across, even on this call, we're spread across a very diverse and large part of Australia, but you know, that ability and that belief that collectively as a team we're able to deliver has been something that's been something I would have never expected 6 months ago, and I think as an organisation globally, I think we're far better for it moving forward, for me.
Jonny?
Yeah, I think, look, what's been really interesting for us is best practices from some of the other sectors have just flowed at rapid pace across Compass Group. So, you know, the power of Compass is now sharing not just across sectors, but globally. We've got different views of COVID, post-COVID. It's almost like a time machine. You know, APAC came out of it first. China was first back. 80% B&I businesses are back there. We're learning from them. We can help you learn. So that is the power of Compass Group. The second bit is, who'd have thought we'd be feeding stranded passengers on cruise ships? Who'd have thought we'd be feeding 500,000 people meals in quarantine hotels? These are all new green sectors for us. Who'd have thought we'd be picking up the phone and doing a workshop with a large hotel group to see if they want to offload all of their services to us? So the time and opportunity is now for us. And I think those rapid changes have changed the gear for us as an organization. We can now rapidly respond, and the business is gearing up to do that going forward. So administration, red tape, I feel like that's a thing of the past for us. We've got to keep that going. The challenge will now be, how do we maintain that speedy momentum?
Yeah, that resonates so much, actually. I was going to just move it on to kind of who have you been partnering with and collaborating with? I mean, we've certainly found, Jonny, that that really rings a bell, because we've certainly reached out to places where maybe we've had a much slower conversation, it's sped up. A great example would be one of Nuffield Health, which is one of the UK's big healthcare providers, and they work in the corporate sector. And what was quite a gradual conversation has really sped up, and we're starting to look at, well, if you do the gym and we're there thinking about people's nutrition, how do you put those two things together and really create an offer that might work for a consumer even if they're at home? So something that we could have done before, but it's sped up. And who have you been, again, just out to the group, who have you been talking to that maybe you weren't talking to before? Where have you found partnerships that are exciting to you now?
Yeah, look, I think for me, it's not as much who we've been talking to. It's, and again, to Jonny's points, those opportunities that historically we most probably would have not engaged with or not really had appetite to look at it, and we've really seen that develop. And we've had to stand up a number of central production kitchens, which I'm sure we'll talk to David's sort of skills there, and that's come out of necessity, and whether that's in the aged care market, within the RA and Eurest market, we've seen our ability to stand up some central pockets of excellence that support the wider business, and not just have the blinkers on and focus on RA or Eurest, but really on Compass Group. And our clients are really seeing the benefit from that. Interestingly enough, we're having a lot of prospective clients who we've been having long-term engagement, and for some of them, as Jonny said, this is the first conversation we're having, who are now actually coming to us asking for our thoughts and our thought leadership moving forward as well. And I think as a result of COVID, that's really flipped the lens a bit, where we traditionally will go out there and look for the business. We're finding that our clients and consumers are coming to us for our global best practice and seeing how they can leverage off our best practice into their own business or wider industry as well, which is something we would have experienced 6 months ago.
Yeah, Jonny.
I think we're talking to people that we wouldn't have even considered clients of ours. So large corporate landlords, for example, the ones I'm talking about, those big guys that own the big building. We're talking to those people around how we can work with them to service all of their tenants, and not perhaps contract with tenants, and perhaps even rethink the way that buildings are designed, with large central kitchens in the basement that can service a little bit like a cruise ship, pardon the analogy, but service all of the different floors and customers in that building with a multitude of different offers. So that's a really interesting one. I think the other obvious one for us across the region here is partnering very heavily with about 20 of our suppliers in the cleaning, hygiene, health sectors to launch our Safe Sphere return to work program, which gives us a higher level of accreditation. And Simon, you're getting great feedback from the ops team as you're certifying those sites. They're very proud. It's this overt cleanliness that we're going back to our clients and saying, we've reached this level of cleanliness. We're really proud of it. And our teams, they might be small, they might be reduced, but they're very, very proud of the standards they're delivering. So I think supplier contacts and collaboration has just accelerated for us.
I think that's a key one. With that return to work and the focus on Safe Sphere, it was very much targeted towards the consumers and clients. But as a result, we've really seen significant engagement from our own employees, and a sense of pride and a sense of absolute desire to make sure that venue is the very best it can be for their customers to return. And that we never really focused on that employees first and foremost, but that's been a real positive outcome from it as well.
Yeah, but just so maybe let's shift the conversation to talk about sort of what are the topics of debate that are out there right now, particularly I think with your clients. Where are their minds? What are they focusing on? What do you get the phone calls about? Maybe kind of Adam, Vanessa, and Elaine, kind of as you take those calls and you reach out to your clients. What's the conversation out there now? What are people's concerns or I guess hopes for the future? Vanessa.
I think the biggest shift that I've noticed has been as a result of Victoria going into this second wave quite drastically. Their shift has been, originally it was, this is what we're going to do nationally, and this is how we're going to operate, and this is how we're going to bring our people back into the building. It's gone completely the opposite direction of, okay, so what can we do in Perth? This is what we're going to do in Brisbane. And it really has created this very diverse strategy across the country, as Jonny alluded to earlier, but it's very much now, okay, no more national approach. What are we doing in our state, and what can we do, and how are we going to make it work? No national approach at all in any of the clients that I have.
Yeah, and Adam.
Yeah, look, for most of the client conversation we had early in the piece, we had a really high level of support, particularly on the commercial front, with a lot of our clients as we went through this. What we're now seeing, 5-6 months in, is that the clients are facing certainly a lot of their own commercial pressures and challenges financially now. So they're starting to think a lot differently how they approach their reopening, and we're getting clients to think about moving this into next year. Certainly what's happened in Victoria with their shutdown, it's put a lot of nerves across a lot of our clients in other states as well. So their considerations where they were looking to reopen has certainly shifted their way of thinking, and how they approach that, and what is the right model, which for us is where we need to come back around those revised offers. What's the new or the next normal for us as a business to be able to provide service solutions that are going to meet their needs as well. So most of those conversations where previously it was looking as a short-term, COVID was only going to be a short-term thing. Now it's turned into certainly the reality of a longer-term focus, and how they are going to react commercially with their business as well, and what the right fit for them and those solutions are. And I think quite interestingly, in Eurest, we've got other sectors in manufacturing which are ramping up their business. So their way of thinking is very different. It's how do we maintain, COVID safe operations? What support can we get from Compass Group to ensure, we have a COVID safe? So the Safe Sear program, those type of things that we've introduced are very critical to their business and the continuity of their business, particularly across that manufacturing sector. And we also have our hospital retail sector, which again is a slightly different lens as well, in terms of their approach in how they start moving their business and shifting it. Where we had a lot of elective surgeries, visitations, all of those were completely cancelled in the fear that we'd have a huge outbreak of COVID, and that would put a lot of pressure onto the retail and the hospital. So now their way of thinking and shifting is how do we start re-engaging, getting those surgeries back into the business to help grow the retail space for us as well. So we've been lucky to have some real good engagement and a lot of support from those clients, whether that be rent relief, continued commercial support, but now seeing that sort of shift to the reality of what COVID brings to how they return, how we see that hospital retail return, how they manage their environments to ensure that we also have a viable business going forward as well. So.
Yeah. And Vanessa, back to you. Oh, you got it.
Shall I take my hand down?
Well, it's interesting what Vanessa, it was particularly actually interesting what you said about that second wave happening in Victoria. There's a lot of discourse, public discourse here in the UK at the moment about a potential second wave. I think we've got a sort of an uptick in cases, but I don't think we're calling it a wave yet. And to be honest, I think over here, the language of second wave, I'm not sure we know what that is and how, as a society, we're going to react to it if it happens. What has been your experience of it? What have you learned by going through that? And what's the story of that been? Where are you now?
I think you can see it really clearly in Melbourne that we're actually taking this seriously now, and we realise that we're in it for the long term. Whereas the first time round, I know my own thinking was very much, this is probably 3 months, maybe 4 months, and then we'll start to be able to sort of crawl our way out of this. And we were talking about bringing back events in September, and here we are now really realising that is absolutely not going to happen, and we will not see events until next year. So I think the compulsory wearing of masks has become a very visual reminder to all of us here in Melbourne that we have to take this seriously, and it has changed the way we behave, and it has forced us to social distance. And seeing, interestingly, the behaviour of the wedding that we had in Canberra that has a lot lighter restrictions, that social interaction is something that we are really craving. As soon as you take away that barrier, everyone defaulted back to dancing, hugging, kissing, and being normal in this environment. And it was our challenge to mitigate that and make sure that we were keeping everybody safe, because we are, by nature, we want to be social, and that's going to be when we start to come out of this. I think from a venues perspective and from a leisure and an entertainment perspective, is to how to manage what we naturally want to do. Yeah, that's so similar to what we're seeing here. I think that natural urge people have to go back to kind of what it should be normal human behaviour, and how we do that in a responsible way. Yeah. So Simon.
Yeah, I think just to Vanessa's point, word of advice and candid advice, what we're seeing is a return from the second wave is going to take us a lot longer than the return from the first wave did. So I think the first wave was all new, and we're all playing catch up, and it could be argued that some states and territories came back a bit too early, but I think there's going to be a lot of caution in regards to a return post the second wave, and I think we're going to see that in Victoria. So there's going to be a delay, and we're certainly hearing that from our clients in Victoria that they're no longer, when there was a first wave, there was a line drawn in the sand and almost a time in the calendar where we could work towards. Now it's all bets are off, and we'll return when we return, and we really don't know what that is. So that second wave has really created a heightened sense of uncertainty in the industry, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think that's very familiar over here, and I think we've got a sense that we've got to now start creating plans that can be normal with this going on around us, as opposed to waiting for a time when we can operate kind of, this is operations. And maybe that, with a few minutes left, I'd like to kind of ask, maybe I'll start with some of the Brits actually, kind of. So for all of us in Compass, our new year starts at the end of September. So I know that we will all have been thinking about what are our plans for 2020, 2021. And with that context in mind, accepting that next year will be significantly affected by this in some way, what are some of the things that you are really hopeful about in 2021? What are some of the things that you want to do within your area of catering? What do you want to achieve? Maybe maybe British folks. Gavin, what do you want to achieve in 2021 with all this going on?
Well, I think I've got 2 points. I think one thing that's sort of risen from this conversation is just the ability to be dynamic and agile at every possible twist and turn of our business, whether it's in the UK or it's in Australia or further afield. And I think that's been an amazing experience to go through, the fact that we can change these models, which actually have been in operation for a very long time, in a very short amount of time, to be able to change, whether it's going to be dynamic hospitality, whether it's going to be more agile workforces, whether it's going to be adaptable food offerings, etc., working with CPKs and other logistical considerations. And the fact that we're able to twist and turn at such a rapid rate has been phenomenal. And I think that culture is ingrained within us, particularly now, and will continue to be. So I think that dynamic nature will evolve and grow. The other thing I'd like to sort of raise, or what I have aspirations for the future, is, throughout this process, we've been re-articulating what restaurant associates means. So we've come up with the RA way. And a big part of that is aligning ourselves to 10 of the SDGs to make sure that everything we're doing is aligned with a sustainable sector.
Yeah.
Oh, UN goals.
Yeah.
UN goals. And I think that's really important. You know, the fact that we've all decided as part of this process that that is really important to us, a sustainable future, a long-term plan to enable us to have a far more efficient, a far more conscientious approach to business. And then how we articulate that, whether it's going to be for our wellness agenda or through our community agenda with Sonia or with the food, and make sure that the sourcing and a whole other bunch of considerations are really, really thought about in a very deep way. I think it's been a really great experience for us, and I think going forward that will become more and more important.
Yeah. David, what are you looking forward to doing next year?
Well, loads of things. I think one of the best things, I think, and I can't remember who touched on earlier, is about the adaptation to speed of change and how that continues. Because I think it's a benefit for everybody, including the clients and us. You know, it's so integral to success in this current era and time that, you know, process shouldn't get in the way of progress, but it's there to support it. I think it's a really key thing. And then it's, again, how that then applies to the offer and you know, connectivity again with the consumers. So obviously central production kitchens are integral to that, and the diversity they then deliver. Mm-hmm. So you can be agile and really flexible to everyone's needs, but without being a busy fool.
Yeah. Sonia, what's your bucket list?
Oh, where to start? I think for me, what we've proven to ourselves is as everybody's kind of said, is that when we set ourselves an idea to do something this year, we've really shown ourselves that we can achieve it and we can do it. And so I'm quite excited to transform some of the plans that we had for next year into still realizing them. I think we can still deliver, you know, all of our engagement activities that we wanted to for our frontline teams. We can still qualify our baristas. We can do all of these things that we still had planned to do, but do them in a new way. And so I think I'm really looking forward to how we kind of overcome those contact and social distancing obstacles in the new year. Because I don't think. Sorry. No, I was just going to say, I don't think it's going to go away tomorrow. We all know that, you know, we've kind of got to reshape the way we deliver things, and we look at how we deliver different things in our business, from frontline training to services, all different services. And so I'm just looking forward to seeing how we do that next year.
Yeah, really interesting to hear. Maybe Jonny and our Australian friends, kind of how that compares and contrasts with your plans for next year, and just within the context we find ourselves.
Yeah, well, look, there's one thing for sure. Yes, could we press a button and it folds into the wall? That's probably pie in the sky. But could overnight or over the weekend we change the shape of that environment? So when 30% are back next week, we can service it well enough. And again, put it in the back pocket when we need to go small again, because I feel like this will be the new world. And we need to be ready for a lot of that change, back and forward. But keeping talking will allow us to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And any other final thoughts from people about their 2021 plans?
I think for me, just, you know, a nice succinct point is, you know, pre-COVID, it was dare to believe or dare to dream. For me, it's just believe. You know, I think we've demonstrated from Australia, we've demonstrated from a global point of view that we've been forced on this adversity, and we've come through it. And to Jonny's point, it is going to be momentum for time to come, and we need to embrace that and move on. I think is my thoughts around it all.
I'd absolutely agree. Okay, and I think just reflecting on what you said there, it's amazing actually how much commonality there is in terms of some of the things that we're starting to think about. So that idea of flexibility, Jonny, and that wave in kind of, I suppose, volume, absolutely agree with you that we need that flexibility in what we do, and that the winners are going to be the people that manage to do that over time and don't pin their hopes on something that may or may not happen for 30% of the time. I absolutely agree with that. So I'll bring things to a conclusion. I've appreciated this so much. I think it's fascinating to hear the differences, to understand what you're going through in the second wave. Lovely to hear some of the things maybe you've done more of. I like the idea of the cleaning accreditations and really pushing that to the maximum. And to think about that we do face this very similar challenge perhaps in a slightly parallel universe with you on the other side of the world. And I hope that this creates some thoughts in our heads that maybe we might be able to work with each other on some of these things over the next few months. I think that's certainly the upside, perhaps, of what we're going through now.
Forward to it, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Team Australia. Thank you, Team Britain, and hopefully we will see you all soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Great chat, everybody.
Take care. Bye bye.
Have a great day.
Bye.